What do nuclear-powered ballistic submarines, the medical profession, and NASA have in common? That's today's question on the Legalized Negligence podcast. How could a man spend months aboard a nuclear-powered submarine, surrounded by missile warheads and torpedoes, the crushing pressure of the ocean depths, and come home safely, only to walk into a hospital for a sore knee and never come out alive? That's the question a young woman asked her senators and representatives 4 times during this year's legislative session in Florida. Her father, a Navy veteran, served in one of the most dangerous and high-stakes environments on Earth. He survived the ocean's abyss, only to fall victim to a healthcare system that was supposed to help him in his time of need. He died in a place that was supposed to heal him. Here are her words, slightly corrected for accuracy, not to change their meaning, as she addressed members of the Florida House and Senate in 4 recent committee hearings. She stated, "How could my father travel the depths of the ocean aboard a nuclear-powered ballistic submarine and return home safely, yet go into a hospital with a complaint of knee pain and end up dead?" Each time she asked that question, she did so rhetorically. She never paused for an answer. I wish she had, because the answer was right there, hiding in plain sight. As I watched the proceedings, I kept thinking, don't stop there. Take it to the next level. Demand they provide an answer. It was their law that brought you here in the first place. Having served in the U.S. Navy myself, and having worked in the medical profession during the 1980s and 1990s, I am qualified to answer her question. And so I will. Her father lived through his tour of duty aboard the USS Stonewall Jackson because the U.S. Navy runs on discipline, accountability, and systems integrity. A single error aboard a submarine can cost lives. That's why sailors drill constantly, why every action has oversight, why shipmates hold one another accountable, and why no one is ever above scrutiny. Every man does his job. Every mistake is studied. Every failure is investigated. And when something goes wrong, the system changes because lives are at stake. But in Florida hospitals, that same level of accountability does not exist, especially when the law actively prevents it. You see, in Florida, there is a law, Florida Statute 768.21 subsection 8, that states certain individuals, based on their age and family status, are prohibited from recovering non-economic damages in wrongful death claims involving medical negligence. That means no case because no attorney will take it on. And no case means no jury, no discovery, no evidence presented, no public scrutiny, and no accountability. In other words, the system doesn't learn, because the system never has to admit it made a mistake. That's why her father was safer 800 feet beneath the ocean's surface, surrounded by nuclear warheads and torpedoes. Not because hospitals lack the technology or abilities of the Navy, but because Florida's legal structure rewards silence and protects negligence. This isn't about blaming doctors. It's about recognizing that medicine, like submarines, is a complex system. And like any complex system, it needs oversight, feedback, and reform. There is a way forward. There is already a model in place in several states that has proven effective in reducing negligent medical errors, lowering malpractice insurance premiums, and fairly compensating surviving family members for their loss, if the legislature would take the time to educate itself. It's called the Michigan model. Under this system, when a medical error occurs, the hospital acknowledges the mistake, discloses it promptly, offers a sincere apology to the family, and provides just compensation. Doctors aren't demonized, but they are held to account. Patients and families aren't dragged through years of litigation, but they are respected, heard, and made whole. Then the hospital examines the system that failed and implements safeguards to prevent the same mistake from happening again. Here's the result: lower liability costs, fewer lawsuits, fewer repeat errors, safer healthcare, better relationships between doctors and patients, Imagine that, a system that values both truth and trust. It exists. It works. But Florida has chosen to ignore it. Instead, the legislature has given us subsection 8, a statute that devalues human life based on age and marital status. A statute that says some people just don't matter. But they do matter. The young woman's father mattered. My mother mattered. And so did hundreds, possibly thousands, of others whose lives have been erased from legal recognition by Florida's justice system over the past 35 years. If this current legislature doesn't have the courage to repeal this unjust law, then they should stop pretending they care about accountability. Because right now, the only people being held accountable are the families, left to grieve in silence, with no legal recourse, and no public acknowledgement that something went wrong. In the Navy, failure leads to reform. In Florida medicine, failure leads to denial. It doesn't have to be this way. But it will be, until lawmakers stop listening to the insurance and medical lobbies, and start listening to the truth. If you want to know more about Florida Statute 768.21 subsection 8, or how the Michigan model can help us build a safer, more just healthcare system here in Florida, visit legalizednegligence.com or subscribe to this podcast. I'm Philip Glickstein, and this is the Legalized Negligence Podcast.